Hello, everyone. My name is Stan Nurilov, and I have the internet weather for this week. We'll start off our report by looking at the top 10 most probed ports. Why do we look at this? Well, this helps us to identify ports of interest that are being scanned on a weekly basis on the internet. We rank them by two categories. The first is for a given port, how many probes are we observing for that port during the last week, or how many sources concurrently are doing that. So these are the top 10 for the last week, and I just wanted to review the activity on port 2375 TCP and port 2376 TCP, because they actually go hand in hand. Now, we've covered this a few times, but I'll just give an update on it. The next way that I mentioned that we'll look at scanning activity on the internet and probing activity on the internet is regarding the number of devices concurrently scanning at the same time. Usually we look at this to understand botnet activity and help us understand threats that might be targeting a specific port. They're a little bit more interesting. Maybe there's a new exploit or something like that. Now, all of these ports we've covered before, but I decided to give a recap of ports 8291 TCP and 8728 TCP because I feel like these are very important ones, and they do have to do with MikroTik devices, which we've covered in the past. So looking back 180 days at the scanning activity, this chart represents the number of IP addresses that are engaged in scanning on these two ports, 2375 and 2376 TCP. And if you look at it, it's not a huge number of devices doing the scanning. It's maybe only, 1,000 or a few hundred in any given hour. But it is something that's been increasing since, if we look back 180 days ago. So for that reason, it's interesting to us. Generally, this could indicate, again, some sort of a wormable exploit. Usually, though, if there is a wormable exploit that's widespread, this curve is compressed to a much tighter time frame. So this represents something that is probably not widely deployed and probably not too many devices out there that are likely impacted by this. So what is it? Again, it's something that we've covered before. It has to do with the Cisco Cloud Center Orchestrator. So this Cisco Cloud Center Orchestrator exposes a Docker REST API. So somebody who has this appliance can launch via programmatically, Docker containers. And the vulnerability itself, it's a really old one, but it's that when the device first comes online, it listens on any port. And that's bad because if it comes and listens on any port and it's on the internet, that anyone could come in here and then they could, query this basically unauthenticated, REST API that allows you to see what Docker containers are running, but maybe also let you run specific ones. So this is data from, some of it is data from our honeypot, some of it is from open research. It's quite an old vulnerability. So if anyone has this type of device out there, it's definitely something that should be patched. But you could see there's continued interest by multiple, IP addresses out there that are interested in discovering probably this device, and probably for the purpose of starting Docker containers. There's certainly no shortage of adversaries who have great ideas about what to run if they could steal your computing resources. And I know we've seen a lot of that, for example, with cryptocurrency mining or adversaries taking over assets in order to do proxying and or conducting DDoS attacks or acting as C2 infrastructure. All right, moving on. So this is the report of port 8728 TCP and 8291 TCP. These ports are related to the MikroTik routers. So these are management interfaces on certain MikroTik devices. And this is a very popular platform. MikroTik is a very popular router. And these ports are popular, to be open on devices like that. If you have a MikroTik device and these ports are open to you on the internet interface, it's not desirable, very bad, because as you could see, there are a lot of adversaries looking for this. In fact, you could see that the number of IP addresses doing this scanning is several thousands of devices, concurrently looking for MikroTik devices that are probably poorly configured. Why is this important? Well, we've seen a lot of MikroTik compromised devices be used in a couple of different attacks by adversaries, one of which could be related maybe to DDoS, and the other is related to hosting C2 infrastructure for the adversary. So if you have MikroTik devices, I know they're very popular, and you're deploying them, just be considerate of how you put them out there, make sure they're hardened, and that the network interfaces are only the necessary network interfaces are exposed, and then certainly the passwords are not easy to guess, the administrative passwords for the device. Just taking a look at the number of devices out there that are doing this type of scanning, it's interesting to note that they're kind of all over the place, meaning worldwide. However, there is one place that I think usually has more activity than I am seeing now on the chart, and that's in China. Usually, there's at least a few devices in China that participate. In this instance, you can see that it's pretty much everywhere except China that the scanning is emanating out of, which I think is interesting. And that about wraps it up for the internet weather this week. Thank you, everyone. And if you have any suggestions for ports that we should explore or any comments or feedback, please don't hesitate to comment or send an email, and we'll see if we can cover this topic on a future episode of ThreatTraq or the Internet Weather Report.